This was the week when two icons of Belfast may have finally bit the dust in the shape of H&W and Wolff Shipyard and Casement Park. I've got my H&W and Wolff cranes up there somewhere, yes indeed. H&W and Wolff was the first to be shafted by the British government after surviving a turbulent few years, having faced closure in 2019. At that time, I went along to offer my support to the yard's workers who were picketing against losing their jobs. At the very last moment, they were bought out of administration by Infrastrata, a small energy firm with ambitions to develop a gas storage facility under Larne Lough. Now, the future of H&W and Wolff, well, it appeared secure when in 2022, along with Spain's state-owned shipbuilding company Navantia, they were awarded a contract to build 3 support ships for the Royal Navy, which would have resulted in an $800 million payday for the local firm. The then Tory Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris said it was a fantastic testimony to Belfast's shipbuilding heritage and reputation for innovation and expertise. Right. Doubts, however, were raised around the fact that the shipyard hadn't actually built this ship in a decade, and more doubts about the contract spiralled when the company's shares were suspended in July. This has led to the new Labour government announcing that they couldn't offer support, as there was a very substantial risk that taxpayers' money would be lost. So it's Groundhog Day for the shipyard workers, as they must wait to see if another knight on a white horse with a very large wallet rides to their rescue. From the east of the city to the west, and it's been over 10 years since Casement Park closed its doors ahead of a much anticipated redevelopment. Those plans immediately hit the buffers when local residents raised concerns around the proposed size of the new stadium and how that would affect the local area. To add to the woes of the scheme was the issue of cost and who was going to pay. Now, the last Tory government, well, they made a seemingly definitive promise to have the new stadium funded and ready to host matches in the upcoming Euros. But only this week, our new Secretary of State, Hilary Benn, dropped the bombshell in an email, would you believe? He sent an email that this wasn't going to happen. And he subsequently refused to confirm how much of any government funding is going into the redevelopment. Due to the decade-long delay, the building costs have spiralled. And if a GAA-only stadium was to be built today, it would come in at around 250 million, leaving a shortfall of 130 million to be found. Now, you know I'm being mischievous, a tad mischievous, pointing out the fact that if Sinn Féin, after 26 years in the Assembly, can't manage to get a GAA stadium over the line, then maybe Unionists' worries around an imminent border poll may be somewhat unfounded. Shinnerbots, please form an orderly line online. Black, 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 black. When our new Prime Minister Keir Starmer was giving the excuse of a black hole in the UK economy for passing on the redevelopment of Casement Park, Keir himself didn't have to worry about any black holes in his own pockets due to him taking a slew of freebies and donations and gifts. Amazingly, since 2019, the Prime Minister has accepted gifts amounting to £107,145, putting him at the top of the list for freebies, making our Lib Dem leader Ed Davies' paltry $16,591 look like he wasn't even trying. Now, both Keir Starmer and his wife accepted thousands to pay for clothing from Labour peer and donor Wahid Ali, with Mr. Starmer even getting his glasses paid for. Has he never heard of Specsavers? So much for Starmer's promise during the election that he would reset and clean up politics to ensure the highest standards of integrity and honesty. Maybellics. Well, now we know that the Starmers did clean up. Well, on the high street anyway. Buying top-of-the-range clothes and glasses, all paid for with other people's money. Starmer has now promised that he will no longer accept gifts for clothes, but that he didn't see the glaring conflict of interest in accepting such gifts doesn't augur well for his administration. And while this story will no doubt soon sink into the morass of corruption, which is UK politics, it should at least bring some attention to an even bigger issue, that being political lobbying. For decades, it's been argued by many that until a cap is set on the amount of money any individual or entity can donate to a political party in the UK, there remains the risk of undue influence purchased via the chequebook. Now again, if you want to see how that plays out, how purchase politics plays out, only look across the Atlantic, where professional lobbyists from the National Rifle Association have managed to block any sensible gun control measures, leading to the almost weekly slaughter of children in US schools. And while the amounts of money being exchanged in the UK are minuscule in comparison, the old adage still holds true. He who pays the piper calls the tune. With it looking like the Israeli Secret Service Mossad can turn any communication device into a bomb, I expect the value of carrier pigeons to dramatically increase in the Middle East. Now, if you think that's a joke, it was reported this week that Hamas's top leader has completely abandoned electronics and now relies on a system of human couriers and coded handwritten messages for his communication. Nor is this the first time Mossad have used such a method of attack. In 1996, they used explosives hidden in a mobile phone to kill a prolific Hamas bomb maker. The standing of Mossad was at an all-time low, having failed to anticipate the Hamas attack on October the 7th last year. The grandiose scope of their pager walkie-talkie operation, which resulted in Hezbollah suffering dozens of fatalities and over 3,000 injuries, will no doubt have re-established confidence in their abilities to reach out and attack their enemies wherever and whenever. Now, considering the slaughter of civilians by Israel in Gaza, I doubt they were worried that the use of booby traps is prohibited under international law, nor will they show much concern that civilians, including children, died in these attacks. There is much debate as to how Mossad managed to carry out the operation, with some suggesting they intercepted and tampered with the pagers en route to Hezbollah. The much more likely explanation is it was Mossad themselves who manufactured the devices, with the question now being, how did they manage to get them into the Hezbollah supply chain? The reason for the attack? Well, there's no doubt that the increasing pressure being felt by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu within his own country to come to a negotiated peace with both Hamas and Hezbollah, and in doing so increase the potential for the release of Israeli hostages, well, that's not going to happen. Well, because Netanyahu remains tied to only one aim: the complete destruction of Gaza and its citizens. And he's calculated that with the USA in a toxic presidential election cycle and an anemic response coming from Europe, which is focused on the war in Ukraine, he can continue with his genocidal war undeterred. Now, there's one side issue around the pager attack which I haven't seen addressed, and that's its implications for the aeronautic industry. We know that Hezbollah moved to using pagers months ago in an attempt to thwart being surveilled via mobile phones. It is therefore certain that some of their number would have travelled with them pagers on planes during that time, yet the explosives secreted within them wasn't detected by airport security. The danger this poses is clear to see. So we'll have to wait to see if the Israeli government share how they did this with the world, or will we have to wait until a commercial plane is downed by Al-Qaeda, now aware of this new attack method. What I will say is, do not be surprised if you face even longer security checks at airports, as all your electronic devices now face even more rigorous examinations. One thing we can be certain of, and that is that Mossad's operation, rather than furthering peace, has instead made the Middle East and the world both much more dangerous and volatile. And you didn't need a pager message to understand that. A Starmer committee this week were told that ethnic minority communities have seen a failure in addressing racism in Northern Ireland. The most shocking revelation was that some of those minority groups had been advised by the PSNI, no less, to consult, negotiate, right, or listen to community leaders with links to paramilitary organisations. In other words, our police service have abdicated their responsibility to protect those under attack by instead suggesting they listen to the leaders of paramilitary organisations, which are not only illegal, but were supposed to have been disbanded after the Good Friday Agreement. To be clear, we're talking here about the UDA and the UVF, as it's within their communities that the vast majority of these racist attacks took place this summer. But it would be wrong, and I'm not going to make this claim, it would be wrong to make the claim those organisations were directly responsible for the actual attacks. What we can say, however, and say for certain, is if those organisations made it clear that no further attacks should take place, then you can be damn sure no further attacks would take place. And with a police force seemingly surrendering their responsibilities, maybe the best these minorities can hope for is that the leaders of these organisations realise the PR disaster such attacks are having on not only their communities, but also their credibility and standing within those communities. I can't believe that I've also asked people to reach out to the better nature of paramilitary leaders. But hey, welcome to Northern Ireland in the 21st century. Now, a very interesting question was posed by a member on the panel when he asked this.
When do I stop being an immigrant? Is there a timeline? It's been 16 years. My kids have not seen any other country as their home country. When they stop being an immigrant?
When indeed do you stop being an immigrant? Is it 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? For the racist protesters, I presume it's 415 years, as that's the date their ancestors arrived here on boats during the plantation of Ulster in 1609. Because we all came here in boats, people. We have all arrived on this island via boats at some stage. Apart from us, of course, the O'Cahans. We've been here from forever. And we're saying you're all welcome. So just wise up, will you? With 16-year-olds now able to vote in local assembly elections in both Scotland and Wales, there is a push to have that right extended to here. And you know what? I say yes. Let's let the young people vote. If for no other reason than they couldn't make a bigger balls up of things than us old ones have. Give them a chance to make a mess of things. Just for a change. And in the week where Keir Starmer was getting hundreds of thousands in gifts, might be worth time to remind you, I've got a Patreon account. All I want is the cost of a coffee. One coffee, $5 a month, so that I can keep on annoying people. So if you would care to join my little Patreon army, I would be much appreciative. And it's all on the everybody knows about it. And I'm not taking anything. I'm not going to be doing no strip tease for this shit. There's going to be no special stuff that we favours here and there. But don't be getting. You're not buying me for £5. Think a girl you think I am. Oh no, there was no need for it. Like there's no need for it. There was no need for it. Like that's bang out the order. Bang out the order.